Hello there, good morning, afternoon, or whatever time it is for you. My name is Manny, and as you guys know, I'm mildly into Warriors. Not as much the book series itself, because, the book series can be but the concept as a whole is pretty nice. I like some of the people's interpretations of changing up how the plot works and how the world works, but it's still technically Warriors, which leads me into my next point. I did that Clan Gen challenge that everyone is doing. The one by Per Chance, I believe it is. It's like just solid text and all that. And I tried it before just for funsies, and then I've seen a lot of people, messing with it and drawing stuff. And people like Pony Mymph and other people have done really nice interpretations where it's not strictly just canon Warriors, it's Warriors with a twist, and I like that. So I did that with my whole thing. Okay, so it's not like a super strong twist. It's really, this clan exists entirely because I wanted to input one of my characters, or at least the Warriors version of him. This is Phantom. He's the character that rotates in my head like a rotisserie chicken, if you guys know that meme. Or more like a super ball bouncing around in a washing machine, or a dryer rather, because I intermittently cannot stop thinking about this dude. Yeah, he doesn't have a story, but he does kind of have, a concept going on, and, a loose, out-of-context bits of where he actually does stuff, but I have no idea what the timeline is myself. I'll get into more detail of this quote-unquote main canon version of him, but the gist of it is, he traveled around a lot, he did a lot of dumb stunts, and then he got immortal by some sort of, solar flare thing that basically works like the 9 Lives of StarClan, only when he dies, he resets into this physical save state, where he turns back into that age and that physical state he was in when he comes back to life. And it's not a great flavor of immortality. And in other places that I've tried to input him, like D&D, Starfinder, other stuff, this can be flavored in different ways, because, D&D, an immortal character, is not great. Starfinder had reincarnation, D&D just had him being durable as hell, and in Warriors, I'm thinking of, it is technically StarClan, but also not StarClan. It's a different entity entirely that has violet tones, and actually, let's get into his main drawing, which I'll do first. This is Phantom, and to go with the Perchance Generator's style of telling you who the cat is, he is a tortoiseshell with kind of poofy hair, bright teal eyes, and an oriental short hair build. He has a twin sister that's almost the exact same looking, maybe just a bit poofier, and yeah, you notice that he was a tortoiseshell. That's only a female cat thing 90% of the time, right? Yes, it is. He's trans. He also always has a scar on his face and lost one of his legs, which in the main canon was because he tried to do the whole action movie hero boy thing, if you guys know that Lemon Demon song, where he walks away from a pile of grenades and they explode, but he got a little bit too close to mess himself up. So this version of him, I'm not sure, maybe as a slightly older kitten, he got caught up in a fire or something. I'm still kind of sketchy on it, but that's probably how he was adopted, because they were like, oh, look at this baby, but he survived, it's great. Why don't you adopt him? He's been immortal and living for the last 60 years, and only registered in the last 5 that maybe he can't die. In his defense, there was 3 factors that caused this. Cats have a terrible sense of time, he can still age, and just die naturally from being 20 years old, and then come right back to his youthful state, and not really question it initially. Or maybe he didn't get that far long enough and just kept getting in accidents and coming back and being totally fine and just thinking, haha, I'm invincible, hell yeah. And then the third thing is, he kept moving around, he kept traveling, he was an escape artist sort of cat. So, now that he's 60, he's continuing to travel around, because if he stops moving and he ruminates on the fact that he can't die, he's gonna have a panic attack. So he just doesn't settle down ever. He probably finds the clan that's coming up completely on accident, like just totally injured. He's just like, ah, God, not again, and just kind of like laying down there really injured and like on the brink of death, and he's thinking like, okay, this is fine, I'll just reset, everything will be chill, it's just gonna be painful as hell in the meantime. And then a cat comes up and they're like, oh my God, are you okay? And he's like, no, it's fine, just, and like no one ever says just let me die half the time. So the cats are like, oh my God, we need to save you, let's bring you to our clan. And he's just so confused, and he's still very confused by the clan thing, because despite traveling so much, this is the first time he's actually seen, like, you know, clan cats. So the whole time he's just calling them out on stuff, and it's just very, very weirded out instead. And he's like the cat equivalent of an engineer that's wicked smart that can make MacGyver things, so I'm translating that as he understands two-leg stuff very well. Like, he could probably look at a machine and be like, oh, that's a human thing, like the exact correct thing, and maybe can even mess with it a little bit to make it into something. But that's about as far as it goes, because, you know, real cats have limitations. Good lord, I rambled for about 3 minutes with this guy. I told you, I know a lot about him, and a lot of the stuff that he ends up dealing with in the Warriors canon is pretty easy to translate from his main canon. The rest of these guys won't be nearly as in depth, because I'm just kind of making stuff up on the spot, and, you know, literally just making them so I can do Warriors OC AMVs at some point, if I ever decide to do that. Now, Bracken Clan rolled as apathetic and slovenly, so I'm taking that as this clan went through a lot of stuff. And you noticed earlier that they were really small, but I'm taking that as, like, these are the characters that actually matter, and it's probably twice as big, but it's still very small. So let's just jump right on into the actual clan cats, like people usually do. We're going to start with the leader, Blackstar. Bracken Clan had a green cough epidemic, and that was not great, but it was affecting all the other clans, so they were all kind of mutually not having a great time. And then Bracken Clan in particular had a real bad time with a fire that happened almost immediately after. Like, they had, like, time to breathe, and then they're like, okay, cool, and then fire happened. And Blackstar is not taking it super great, because Blackstar was super stressed out when the epidemic happened, and he's just not having a great time. And then the fire happened, and then now he's just like, well, this may as well just happen. Star Clan hates me. Kind of like Blue Star levels of I hate Star Clan. They don't care about me anymore. Screw them. He is modeled after a silver tabby, because they're like, oh, he's a brown tabby. That's what black striped brown tabbies are. And I thought, that's boring. Let's just make him silver. Next up is Garlicfoot, a long-haired white she-cat with a black and red spotted calico tail and ears and gold eyes. She is trying so hard to keep things together ever since Blackstar just gave up. Like, she was kind of abruptly made deputy after the Green Cough wave, and just kind of like, I'm okay, I guess I'm deputy now. And then the fire happened, and Blackstar just had like a nervous breakdown and just stopped, and she was just like, she's just stressed. She is very stressed, and she can't deal with it anymore. She's like on the edge of a breakdown herself, if she isn't already having a silent one. That's about it. She's just doing patrols and trying her best. You know how, like, Fireheart, if I remember correctly, was very stressed out about, like, when Blue Star was doing her whole, like, StarClan hates me thing? Just imagine that, but if she just kind of gave into it. That's her character. She is aunt to Whiteface, who is coming up, and her sister is Appleberry, who is also coming up later. Speaking of Whiteface, he is the medic. I'm trying not to say medicine cat, he's a medic. He is a white tom with short fur and blue eyes. And since those cats are almost always deaf, he is also deaf. And no, he didn't turn into a medic because he was deaf. That was just like a factor that no one even like thought about. He wanted to be medicine cat. And even if he was kind of abruptly knocked into the role because the previous one died, he is totally chill with this. His getting the visions is a bit weird for him because, StarClan says stuff and shows stuff. So he doesn't know what they're saying. I'm thinking even when he was little, StarClan tried to communicate with him verbally and he freaked out. So they were like, okay, guess we're doing more visual stuff just to be sure you see this really important information. Outside of that, he's actually a very chill dude, like pretty happy, just very stressed, but overall very positive, very optimistic. And when he gets the vision about, like, basically Phantom and Smokepaw, I'll have to figure that one out later. He's totally chill with Phantom when Smokepaw eventually brings him in. We'll get to Smokepaw much later. As far as the being deaf thing goes, I figured that, like, the clan is smart enough to figure out some sort of, like, body language sort of thing to properly communicate with him. Next up is Laburnum Cloud, a short-haired red mackerel pseudo-tabby she-cat with amber eyes. The pseudo-tabby thing confuses me, so I just kind of made her sorta ticked, because laburnum is like this flower, yellow flower, that, you can look that up, where it's like, kind of like, looks like lilac almost, or kind of has like a string with little bits of circles sticking out, so that's kind of what I tried to do with her fur here. And she is tiger claw levels of I want to be leader, I want to be deputy, make me deputy so I can be leader and lead this clan out of its weakened state. And, like, half clan cats are kind of and just all kinds of problematic. And just like with Tiger Star, she actually killed the previous deputy, where when the fire started, which was maybe 3 months ago, it just so happened that the deputy died in the fire. Oh no! Like, when in reality she killed him, and then, like, the fire overtook them, and in doing so was like, oh no, he died from the fire. Unfortunate. Black Star was kind of on the edge of his, like, breakdown that would eventually make him, like, just apathetic and just not caring about anything. So he was like, okay, you know what, this is pointless. Let's just pick someone at random. Garlicfoot. There you go. Now you're deputy. Both of them were shocked because, like, both of them met the requirements of, like, having the apprentice thing. But Garlicfoot was like, what? I'm sorry? And maybe we'll pull, like, a Ravenpaw situation where Smokepaw sees the murder. Phantom probably didn't mean to get involved, but he gets involved anyway. And Laburnum's like, oh, I'm gonna murder him, this is great. And then Phantom just comes right back up like nothing happened. And she's just like, what? Next up is Ravenhart, a black mackerel tabby tom with short fur and yellow eyes. He is from Black Star's first litter with Lion Cloud. And he is kind of on board with Laburnum trying to overthrow the current leadership so that things can get moving, but maybe he doesn't understand the scope currently, but when he does understand that Laburnum just wants to rip them to shreds, he's like, oh no, I'm backing out, screw this. His previous mentor was the only one out of his circle of people he knew that died in one of the calamities. He was the only one of his litter. He doesn't really have that much family besides his parents, and his grandparents are probably already dead, so he hasn't experienced the same amount of loss that some other cats have. Next up is Appleberry, who has my favorite name out of all of the cats. She is a long-haired white she-cat with a black and red mackerel calico tail and ears and green eyes. And because she is so similar to Garlicfoot, I decided that they are sisters. She is big. She is like, out of all the cats that, like, you know, all the cats don't have, like, strict breeds because they're wild cats. At the same time, maybe her dad or one of her parents had very strong Maine Coon vibes in, like, their genes, so she definitely took after that parent, and she is big. She is, like, intimidating, but she's a very nice, very sweet lady. I haven't decided if her mate died or not, but her mate was definitely very small. They love their big wife, and, like, their kid, Whiteface, takes after the mate rather than Appleberry, because Whiteface is going to be a tiny little dude for the rest of his life. Outside of that, there's not really much to say about her. She's the big mom, she is the clan mom, and maybe she may or may not have kids with her mate who may or may not be dead. I'm still kind of sketchy on her, but she's like the soft presence that Smokepaw comes up to whenever he's feeling stressed. But also, do not screw with her clan, especially the young ones, or she will rip you apart with her bare paws. And now it's time for Apprentices! Apprentices! I can't pronounce that for some reason. We're starting off with Cootpaw, a black tom with short fur and yellow eyes. And he's had the worst time of all the apprentices, where he tried to save his parents from the fire when he was much younger. This is when he was like 6 moons when everything went down. And Black Star, in a panic, was like, I need to get you out of here. You are a small child. And Cootpaw blames him for not letting him save his parents. And unfortunately, Laburnum is his mentor, so she is feeding directly into that and turning him against Black Star and kind of turning him to being, like, game for, you know, the more violent responses to actually getting him out of power. He's the guy with completely valid reasons to be, like, the angsty one, and he's not, like, there's no therapist in the clan. Maybe Whiteface would be a therapist, too. That could be a thing for the medic. But he is just not dealing with things well. He's kind of closing himself off. Maybe he and Smokepaw used to be kind of friends, but now, like, Cootpaw is just, like, distancing himself, and now Smokepaw is just all alone as an apprentice now. Phantom probably would use his, like, I am immortal, all of my family is dead sort of thing to kind of relate to it. Also the burn thing, they can relate to the burn thing, same hat. But he's probably gonna knock some sense into him, because obviously Phantom has a lot of wisdom, even if it's a bit scattered, because he doesn't really ruminate on stuff. And they both kind of have a heart-to-heart moment, and then Cootpaw eventually, you know, like, he's not better immediately, but he does get on the healing road. And finally, we're on Smokepaw, a blue classic tabby tom with short fur and green eyes. He is the protagonist of this random series I'm kind of cobbling together, and he is the one who finds Phantom, and he is an anxious wreck because he is an affair kit that Linecloud had with some unnamed cat, maybe a half-clan cat, because there was a short period where she and Black Star were split, but that's not for this part. He is the guy who finds Phantom. He's part of a prophecy. I haven't decided if he's going to be leader or not, but it's something about, like, ashes and a star made of smoke and Phantom being involved for some reason. He's kind of like Phantom's constant companion and advocate and stuff like that. Although he's still pretty young. Like, he only just aged up into an apprentice pretty recently. So he's not really sure how to deal with Phantom or being the subject of a prophecy. Phantom bonds with this kid the most out of the entire clan, kind of like a pseudo child of his own, and I'm thinking that, like, Phantom doesn't lose his immortality just yet. This is like the first of many things that he helps out with unintentionally. So he lives with the clan until Smokepaw becomes Smokestar, and then Phantom eventually just leaves and just kind of lets Smokestar figure that he died at some point. But they got everything handled, it's all good. Oh yeah, one more apprentice. It's Cormorant Paw, a black mackerel tabby she-cat with short fur and yellow eyes. I don't really have any plans for her just yet. She's the youngest, she literally just turned apprentice recently, and she also has parents that were rogues that dropped her off as the clan was kind of like, hey, we kind of need kits, and also, this seems like a pretty good place for her to live, kind of almost immediately before everything happened, and once they figure this out, they'll probably, be so paranoid that they'll join the clan and just to keep an eye on her, and she is modeled after one of my cats that I had at one point, where she was also a brown tabby, so she is a direct reference to that cat. Outside of that, she's like the generic cheerful one that will probably grow out of it or grow into it more. I haven't decided yet. Or even if she'll have a love interest. I don't want her to be that generic girl falls in love with the protagonist thing. I mean, that's still on the table, it might just happen, but she'll have more of a personality than that. Smokepaw could also be gay. Or bi. Again, this is all up in the air, up to interpretation. I can change it anytime I want. And now we're finally on the scandalous Lion Cloud. A cream mackerel tabby she-cat with short fur and copper eyes. She is the one that had an affair between her first litter and her current litter, which is now with Blackstar. Because at one point, she and Blackstar split up, kind of, and then she met a nice Tom from another clan and had a kit with him, and the timing of everything was such a way that Blackstar wasn't tipped off. No one was really tipped off that anything happened. So when she did have the kit that was very clearly not from Blackstar, he was kind of had a bit of a moment about it. And then the green cough thing happened, and then the fire happened, and that was one of the aspects of something that, really knocked him down. And, for the record, the clans don't really care if you have, two mates or something. They're gonna side-eye you more if, both sides aren't consenting, if no one is into it, or was even told, and even more so if that second mate is from another clan. She's taking it in stride, though. She's kind of, not really into the stares that she's getting, but honestly, she's putting on a front, and she's just doesn't care. The clan needs kits, and she's gonna have them, and nothing can stop her. Although she does kind of care less about Smokepaw than her other kits, because, Smokepaw is the reason that things started spiraling, and she's kind of cold towards him. And finally, to the elders, we are on Limpet Face, a short-haired chocolate Tom with amber eyes. And I'm playing it out that, this man is 20 years old. He's one of those cats that, lives an absurdly long time, is still pretty spry, he can still take care of himself. He's just very slow, and it's really weird because, for one thing, he is a wildcat, but actually, he was a kitty pet. He was very young when he heard of the clan's existence, and this is post-vaccination that you should all get your cats when they're, I think when they're younger. I'm gonna say that he got it when he was pretty young, and he wanders into the clans. He is idolizing these wild cats. It's so cool. And then Phantom, who is an outdoor cat, and was just starting to live in this area with all the cats, and maybe the clans were in their infancy too, which is why he didn't see that many of them, sees this kitten, and is like, what are you doing outside your house? Because this cat is a Persian. They're very clearly a purebred cat. And Limpet was like, I want to be a clan cat, so he pretended like he lived in the clans. And Phantom just took him at face value. He was like, yeah, alright, and just kind of led him to the clans. To, a very young Bracken Clan, probably when they were still kind of maybe a year into their making the clan in the first place. And Phantom just kind of dropped him off. They're like, what? And then he's like, yeah, y'all needed a kit, right? This is one of yours? And they're kind of like, they were just wandering in the woods, and he's like, yep. So they just kind of went with it, because it's a cat wandering in the woods, little young lad. So they brought him in. This cat's previous name, which probably started with an L, became Limpet Face. Cootpaw is even his great-great-grandkit, or maybe great-grandkid. I'm not sure how far generations go down. I just know that 20 years is, elderly, so I guess 10 years as a generation, but he's been in the clan pretty much the entire time. So when Phantom comes back, he's just like, who is this cat? I know who he is. Phantom barely remembers him until he mentions stuff that, like, only Phantom would know about, and he's like, oh god, they're gonna know I'm immortal, oh god. But no one really, like, believes Limpet Face because, like, you know, they're old, they're almost senile, they gotta be senile by this point. Limpet Face is also a running gag, sort of, where, like, every now and then, they'll come up to him, and they're like, oh my god, he's dead, and then he shoots back up and starts laughing, because, like, he kind of finds it funny that cats keep thinking he's dead. There's, like, even a belief that he's the one who's immortal, despite the fact that, you know, he's completely mortal and could die at any point. But of course he dies in the most dramatic way, probably, like, sacrificing himself and stuff like that. And there's, like, a moment of silence in the gathering afterward, where, like, the cats kind of bow their heads to honor this dude's life. And then somewhere in the background, there's, like, 2 apprentices from another clan, actually 2 warriors from another clan, who do, like, the equivalent of, like, passing a buck to each other because one of them made the bet of, like, how long is this cat gonna live, and they were the closest. So, that's Bracken Clan, a very scattered, kind of vague Warriors AU, just literally to input Phantom in. And the best part about it is that, like, Phantom is a wanderer, so this would be, like, the beginning of him jumping into other clans and helping them out unintentionally, and just being a factor in, like, things going right for the clans, instead of, like, you know, tyrannical leaders like Laburnum Cloud trying to take over. There might be a part 2 to this to decide different stuff, like who the new kits are, if Appleberry's mate is alive, stuff like that. But that, I'm not sure if I'll actually do that, but that'll be a video that may or may not exist. I always gotta keep it vague because I get random bursts of excitement for specific things, and then it kind of goes away. Kind of like with Clan Gen. That is definitely dead. Dandelion Clan is kind of just lost to the winds now. I'm sorry about that. So, yeah, like, keep an eye out for part 2 of this, or at least another version of this where Phantom goes into a different clan and deals with their stuff. Anyway, have a good night, or day, or whatever time it is, and I'll see you guys in whatever the next video is. Later.